Welcome back, Defenders. Jake here. We're doing it today. We're going to the Hermit Kingdom together because Russia and North Korea deepened cooperation during Putin's first visit to North Korea in 24 years. So here's the picture of Putin in Pyongyang back in July of 2000. I think at this point he had been president of Russia for about 8 or 9 months. And Russia and North Korea are neighbors. They share a border. So Putin, 24 years ago, went to Pyongyang to check it out, and he decided never to go back. For 24 years, Putin saw no reason to ever visit his neighbor, the North Koreans. And the reason why is because Putin and Russia were part of the G8. These are the big boys, the power players. We've got Barack Obama, David Cameron, Angela Merkel. This picture's from 2013, and there's Putin with the big boys. Why would he waste his time going to North Korea? But in 2014, Putin invaded Crimea. Russia was kicked out of the G8. It's now just the G7. So here we have Putin, desperate for friends, desperate for allies, creating his own G2. Meanwhile, here's President Zelensky gathered with the leaders and representatives of 90 different countries, supporting his peace proposal. Good job, Russia. So Putin hails North Korea's support for his Ukraine war as he lands in Pyongyang. And anytime dictators get together, it's weird. It's so weird. And I like this tweet. When Putin got off the plane, his portrait is absolutely everywhere, alongside Kim's. And if we think about the dissolution of the Soviet Union, going back to 1991, the millions of possible futures Russia could have had as a peaceful, prosperous, democratic nation, and 30 years later, this is where Russia is. It's a boomerang. It just returned right back to the days of Joseph Stalin. And these dictators, I just can't get over it. It's obvious that they coordinated their shoes so they would be the exact same height. Both Putin and Kim are kind of short guys, and they like wearing platform shoes to look taller. But you can't insult the other dictator by wearing your 4-inch heels when the other guy isn't wearing his. So their handlers obviously coordinated their shoes to make them the same height. Let me share just a little bit of this clip of Putin getting off the plane and then getting into the car. So let's make hundreds of school children miss school and stand in the hot summer sun to welcome the dear leader and his new friend. Nothing says we're going to defeat the West, destroy the West, by getting in a German-made Mercedes-Benz car. And this isn't the first time two dictators rode in a Mercedes-Benz with the rooftop up. And this is the exact same thing that Hitler and Mussolini did in a Mercedes-Benz. 80 years later. You can't make this stuff up. It's so stupid. And I can share some more pictures and videos. There was a welcoming ceremony, a giant portrait of Putin, thousands of slaves in North Korea forced to dance and perform for the dictators. And sure, let me share a couple clips of the welcoming ceremony. I honestly don't see a difference in how Kim Jung Un lives and Jabba the Hutt. It's basically the same thing. It's a criminal organization in which everyone only exists to serve them. So what are they saying on Kremlin State TV about this new grand alliance between the North Koreans and the Russians? And let me share a little bit of this clip. We are back again to the 1961 treaty, under the terms of which we have common political and military articles. What will this mean in practice? The first thing is what the Americans are most afraid of: the modernization of North Korea's missile stock. We have already helped China once with the 1996 protocol because, in many ways, to put it bluntly, China's space successes were due to the 1996 protocol, with us on easier access to rocket technologies. Now, if Russia helps North Korea, its ballistic missiles are already reaching Hawaiian Islands, not to mention Japan. The centers of the west coast of the United States could be under attack sometime later. So this is the Russians once again threatening the United States, openly saying on Kremlin State TV they're going to provide North Korea with advanced rocket technology so that North Korean nuclear weapons can now hit Los Angeles, San Francisco, Denver. They're already pretty close to hitting Alaska and Hawaii. They definitely can hit South Korea, Japan, and even Guam. Somehow, people who support Russia view this as progress. But here's the reality of North Korea. North Korea is an open-air prison. None of the people are allowed out. Nobody gets in. Information is not allowed to get out. Information does not come in. It's a completely closed society. And the economy, the GDP of North Korea, is the same as Laos and Afghanistan. They're ranked 137th in the world as far as the size of their economy. Madagascar has a stronger, larger economy than North Korea. If the Russians wanted to partner with Madagascar, that might be more useful than the North Koreans. And nothing spells it out more clearly than this satellite image from the International Space Station of North Korea at night. So here's the Chinese border, all lit up. We've even got Vladivostok, Russia, located over here. South Korea is super bright. But the people of North Korea live in darkness because they can't keep the lights on. They can't feed their own people. Everyone in North Korea is a slave that only exists to serve the Kim regime. It's the most depressing, pathetic place on the planet. And this is who the Russians are desperate enough to crawl to for help. If you want to learn more about North Korea, I highly recommend the book Escape from Camp 14, author Blaine Harden. And in North Korea, they have a 3-generation purge policy. Let's say a 40-year-old man is caught with K-pop music or South Korean dramas. He'll be sent to a political concentration camp along with his wife, along with his brothers and sisters, along with his parents, and along with his children, and everyone on the family tree up and one down generation. There are hundreds of thousands of people in these concentration camps in North Korea. The overwhelming majority who did nothing wrong. They were just a relative of somebody who did something wrong. That's how paranoid and evil the Kim regime is. I'm also going to link these TED Talks down below. My Escape from North Korea by Hyun-So Lee, 21 million views. There are a couple people who have escaped from North Korea and have become public figures talking about what it's truly like in North Korea. Another good TED Talk is The Family I Lost in North Korea and the Family I Gained by Joseph Kim. Honestly, it's really hard to listen to these people and how bad they have it and not tear up or just want to break down that such a society could exist. North Korea and Russia sign a mutual defense deal as Kim pledges support on Ukraine. The two countries have been allies since North Korea's founding after World War II, but they've drawn even closer since Putin invaded Ukraine. So here's the signing ceremony, and I want to point out something interesting in this clip, but let's first watch it. So this mutual defense pact, basically if North Korea is attacked, Russia will defend them. But Russia is the one who needs help at the moment, not North Korea. So I think Putin is actually hoping that North Korea will start sending soldiers to help his war efforts. I don't think Kim's going to do that, but Kim is happy to sell the Russians artillery from the 1980s, maybe some missiles. But what I want to point out in this clip is this woman. This is not Kim Jung Un's secretary. This is his sister. Her name is Kim Yo Jung, and she is Kim Jong Un's full sibling, full sister. But a lot of people are struggling to understand who's actually in charge of North Korea now. There was a family purge about 10 years ago, and Kim's uncle was running the country, and he had him executed along with some other family members. So a lot of people think that this woman, Kim Yo Jung, is actually the power behind the throne. Kim is the ceremonial figurehead, he's the living god. But who's actually the brains of this country? Who's actually intelligent enough to keep the Kim regime going for another generation? And it's this creepy, creepy woman. So I saw her in the video and I had to point her out. I just think this family dynamic is really interesting. There was a funny moment. Putin's ministers ejected from North Korean negotiation room for entering the room before Kim Jong Un. So we've got Lavrov, and this is the new defense minister. He doesn't wear a military uniform because he has no military experience. But they basically all enter the room, and then some North Korean official explains they all have to get out. They have to pack up their stuff and leave because nobody is allowed to enter the room before North Korea's living god, Kim Jong Un. So Putin was there for 2 days. He's already taken off. He's now in Vietnam. I've got nothing bad to say about Vietnam because Vietnam now likes the United States. U.S.-Vietnam cooperation is growing, maturing, according to the Department of Defense. And the reason why is because Vietnam hates China. China is claiming, I think it's called the 7 or 9 dotted lines, but China is claiming their territorial water extends everywhere, in dispute of territorial water by the Philippines, Malaysia, Indonesia, and Vietnam. The Chinese are bullies, the Chinese are expansionists, and even communist Vietnam is looking for allies and help to protect them from China. Let's talk about other borders. According to Finnish intel, Russian bases near their border have been stripped and all troops and equipment have been sent to Ukraine. So we've got satellite images. This is a Russian base near the NATO border with Finland. And it's completely empty. All their stockpiles have been sent to the war zone in Ukraine. So my question for you is, if the real threat is NATO, if NATO is an aggressive, threatening, hostile military alliance to Russia, then why wouldn't they protect their borders? Why would they prioritize sending troops to Ukraine when they've got a 3,000-kilometer border with NATO now? It's almost like they don't even fear being attacked by NATO. Lots of bad news for Russia. Oil depots were struck again last night. This was a Lukoil depot in Enem, as well as an oil depot in Tambov. I'll link some clips down below if you want to see what an oil depot fire looks like at night. There also was reports of a large explosion in Luhansk. People were thinking this was a military strike. but it turned out to be a Russian truck carrying ammunition that just exploded on its own. Good job, Russia. Russian troops cut off Ukrainian servicemen's head. Kyiv said has received information that Russian commanders have given orders not to take Ukrainians prisoner, but instead to kill them by beheading them. There are pictures online. I'll link this article down below if you want to see it for yourself, but how does anyone support Russia when they cut the heads off of POWs? Here's an interesting bar chart showing criminal cases for refusal to serve inside of Russia. And Russia hit a new milestone. They've now prosecuted 10,000 of their own soldiers for going AWOL or desertion or failure to execute an order. So we have, going back to January of 2022, in 2022 was pretty mild. It then really started to escalate, and you can see the trend. These are Russia's own reported numbers in their own judicial system. That's how we're getting these numbers. But the true numbers of Russian soldiers going AWOL or refusing orders is much, much higher. They're just punished off the books. These are the service members with the privilege to appear in court in order to be punished. Russian court jails American soldier for theft and death threats. This happened about a month ago. I don't know if you remember this story, but this is active duty Army Sergeant Gordon Black, and he was stationed in South Korea. And while stationed in South Korea, he's married, but he took a Russian mistress. This Russian woman was from Vladivostok, and she chose to go to university in South Korea. That's how these two met. Well, this guy's an idiot, and on camera, he was being critical of the United States, blaming NATO for Russia's invasion of Ukraine, expressing his pro-Russian sympathies and views. And I guess these two separated not on good terms. She went back to Vladivostok, and Sergeant Gordon Black thought he was smart. And when he was being rotated back home from a deployment, he went AWOL, and he snuck into Russia without telling his unit to see his mistress or do something. And the more I learn about Staff Sergeant Gordon Black, I do think this was just a domestic dispute. He went to go see her not for a lover's gathering, but to actually threaten her and to get money back, I guess. Here's a clip from Reuters talking about him appearing in court.
A US soldier was sentenced on Wednesday to almost 4 years in a Russian penal colony. That's after a Russian court found him guilty of stealing money from his girlfriend and threatening to kill her, according to a Reuters witness reporting from the courtroom.
PFC Gordon Black.
So a 4-year penal colony sentence for stealing money and threatening to kill his Russian girlfriends. The United States government is still going to try and get him back. He's going to go to jail once he's returned to the United States, but yeah, I don't think this is a good guy, but he needs to be returned. Here's an interesting poll from the Ronald Reagan Institute showing steady support for sending weapons to Ukraine among Americans. Polling going back a year, June of 2023, 59% support military aid to Ukraine, 30% opposed, the other 20% no opinion. But this is good news. Russian disinformation here in the United States is not working. Yes, Russia has their 32% hold. It's pretty consistent, but it's not really eroding. 2.5 years into this conflict, Americans who support Ukraine are not weakening their support. They're not flipping to support Russia, and they understand what's at stake. I make this argument that even though the average American day-to-day is not staying informed, they're not staying engaged, if you ask them, they know where they stand, and they still support democracy, NATO, and Ukraine. Oh my God. All right, so let's talk about Viktor Orban, because on July 1st, he is going to become the president of the European Council, and he has chosen as his slogan for his 6 months as presidency, Make Europe Great Again. So it's not MAGA, it's MEGA. And if I have to be honest, MEGA does sound better than MAGA. But Hungary, Donald Trump, the Russians, they're all collaborating, they're all working together, they're all coordinating their message. This is unavoidable for the EU, unfortunately, but I'm not European. If you're one of my European viewers, let me know how you feel about Viktor Orban assuming the EU presidency for 6 months and going with the slogan of Make Europe Great Again. Let's get to the good news for Ukraine. Italy to send more Storm Shadow missiles. Thank you so much, the people of Italy. France pledges to train 26 Ukrainian pilots for the F-16 over the next 2 years. Thank you so much, the people of France. Denmark unveils their 19th military aid package for Ukraine, including F-16s. The first Danish F-16s will arrive this summer, joining other F-16s coming from the Netherlands, Belgium, and Norway. Thank you to the amazing people of all these countries. Romania to send a Patriot missile system to Ukraine. This is on top of last week the United States announcing one and Germany announcing one. Fantastic. Thank you so much, the people of Romania. Final clip I want to share with you is of Ukrainian Member of Parliament Alexei Goncharenko. Here on the channel, I've probably shared about a dozen clips from Alexei in previous videos. I really like him. But Russia has been charging Ukrainian officials with crimes in absentia as part of its effort to insinuate that Ukraine should not exist. So Alexei was charged with a crime in Russia and trialed. I was imprisoned for 10 years. The court in Russia sentenced me in absentia. I have to spend 3 years in prison, the other 7 years in a general regime colony. I was also banned from administering sites for 3 years. I accept, congratulations, because I am the first Ukrainian member of parliament who was implanted in Russia. So here is his reaction in the Ukrainian parliament to being told he was sentenced to 10 years in prison in Russia.
Так я хочу всім цим негідникам відповісти, як депутат Верховної Ради, як той, якого вони зараз до 10 років засудили. Ідіть нахуй, клоуни, я хочу сказати Володіну, Путіну і всій цій шоблі, які ставлять нам якісь ультиматуми. І ми не просто вас посадимо, а ми вас повісимо на стовпах. І ми до всіх до вас доберемося за все те, що ви зробили з нашою державою. І ви це нам пам'ятайте.
Fired up, ready to go. Russia's going to lose this war. That's all for this update video. Glory to Ukraine, glory to the heroes. If you found this video informative, give me a thumbs up. Best way to support the channel. Comments and questions, let me know down below. I love hearing from you guys. Till the next video, keep defending the truth, keep defending democracy.